You've seen him play heroes on screen, but nothing could have prepared him for what occurred when the cameras were genuine and the respect was lost. When an ordinary interview gets subtly incendiary, how do you stand your ground without losing your elegance? For intelligent viewers who adore authentic character moments, press play to jump in. What do you get when your favorite legend steps into a familiar studio and finds that generosity isn't on the other side? The cameras rolled, the lights were warm, the carousel set for a straightforward chat. But what transpired on that fateful day ended up being something else entirely: raw, unapologetic, unforgettable. Have you ever been in a moment where someone stepped over a silent line and you couldn't unknow what they were truly made of afterwards? What are we to each other when the world is watching? And when it isn't? This is the tale of a man who's portrayed heroes on screen and the unsuspecting moment he had to become one in reality. Let's start. What do you get when one of Hollywood's most noted actors enters a talk show and is met with anything but respect? You're about to see one of the most cringe-worthy moments ever broadcasted on live television. Harrison Ford, the fellow who gave us Han Solo and Indiana Jones, a Hollywood legend himself, walked onto the view set ready for nothing more than a typical press stop. A cozy studio, smiling faces, maybe a few questions about his new movie. Par for the course. What followed was anything but. Before we get into this moment you'll never forget, don't forget to subscribe. And if you ever experience secondhand embarrassment on behalf of someone, you'll surely want to share your opinion in the comments. The studio lights were burning bright that morning, illuminating that warm glow on the stage. Harrison sat down in the chair opposite the panel of hosts, unruffled and relaxed. He'd been through this 100 times. Promos, interviews, sound bites. This was going to be one more nice sit-down about his career and what's next. But then Joy Behar spoke. Well, she said with that smirk she's known for. Look who we have here. Harrison Ford, the man who made a career out of playing the same character over and over again. The mood in the room changed in an instant. The other hosts shifted uncomfortably in their seats. This was not the friendly greeting they had practiced beforehand. Ford's publicist, hovering just off camera, felt her stomach knot. She had called ahead to the producers, instructing them to keep things light and respectful. Ford, being the consummate professional, remained steady. His jaw clenched a little, but his tone was level. "I'm sorry, Joy," he replied, "but I believe you are mistaken about me. I've had a pretty diverse set of roles over the course of my career." Joy leaned forward, laughing obviously. "Oh, really?" she said. "Well, you have the grumpy pilot in Star Wars, the grumpy archaeologist in Indiana Jones, and the grumpy detective in Blade Runner. It looks like a pattern to me." The room grew silent. The crowd didn't know if they should laugh or groan. This was not banter. It was a slow simmer. Ford looked around the table, wondering if someone would cut in and redirect the topic. But nobody stirred. They simply sat there, watching. "Joy," he responded with firmness, "I'm here to discuss my new movie. Maybe we can stay on track with that, rather than whatever it is that you're attempting to do here today." There was a steeliness in his tone now. Not ire, but determination. A line had been crossed, but Joy didn't back off. If anything, she moved in closer. "Agenda? I don't have an agenda, Harrison," she replied. "I'm just calling it like I see it. You've been phoning it in on the same narrow range of roles for decades. When was the last time you really pushed yourself as an actor?" The words lay there, suspended in the air like cigarette smoke, thick, acrid, and impossible to escape. Ford had endured challenging interviews in the past, but this was different. This no longer felt like challenging questioning. This felt personal, such as an ambush designed to embarrass him, live, and before millions. "You know what, Joy?" Harrison said, his famously calm voice beginning to tremble, not with fear, but with frustration. "I've been acting for over 50 years. I've worked with some of the greatest directors in the history of cinema. I've played everything from carpenters to presidents. And in all that time, I've never once felt the need to justify my career to someone who makes a living gossiping on daytime television." The studio went absolutely quiet. The only noise came from the cameras, humming softly. Joy's face turned red with anger, but instead of retreating, she leaned in harder. "Gossiping? That's what you think this is?" she snapped. "I'm asking valid questions about your career, questions your fans deserve answers to. Or are you too much of a prima donna to take a little bit of honest criticism?" That was it. Ford stood slowly. His chair scraped against the polished studio floor with a sound so sharp it made a few audience members flinch. The echo cut through the silence like a blade. "Honest criticism," he said, his voice firm but cold. "Is that what you're calling this? I've faced critics who actually knew what they were talking about. You're not even in their league. This isn't journalism. It's a circus. Joy stood up to greet him, obstinate. Sit down, Harrison, she snarled. You don't have the right to bully me because you're a movie star or whatever. This is my show, and I'll ask whatever I want to ask. Ford's eyes fastened on hers, firm and unblinking. Your show, he said again, voice low and quiet now, almost tranquil but not benevolent. Your show is a joke, Joy. You take up your entire day ripping apart people who actually produce things, and then you offer nothing but negativity and cheap shots. At least when I perform a grumpy character, I'm getting compensated to fake it. The other hosts, who had been frozen in shock, suddenly found their voices. They leapt in, attempting to smooth over the situation, but the moment had already passed the point of no return. And Joy, she wasn't letting it go. Think you're above everyone else, don't you? She retorted. Think because you starred in a couple of blockbuster movies you can scorn people like me? Well, let me let you in on something. Mr. Ford, your best days are behind you, and everybody knows it. There was a gasp from the audience. Ford's fists were curled at his sides. His face didn't move, but you could sense it, that wire of emotion, the struggle within him between pride and fury. For an instant, it seemed like he was going to crack. It was a stifling tension in the room. Folks weren't merely observing a celebrity interview anymore. They were observing something honest, something true, something that would be talked about for decades. The silence following Joy's last cut was more deafening than any scream. You could have heard the hearts of the audience beating. Ford's publicist was standing off camera, wildly waving to the others, but nobody budged. Everybody was paralyzed, enchanted by what they were watching. This was not just awkward. This was television history, of the sort nobody wanted to see again. Harrison Ford slowly turned around to face Joy directly, not with flashy rage, but with that subtle, searing intensity which had once caught villains off guard on screen. Only this time it wasn't acting. This was real. And the anger behind those eyes? Real. Earned. Behind me, my best days? He echoed softly. His voice was so quiet that it hardly rose above a whisper, but for some inexplicable reason, it struck more forcefully than a scream. You want to discuss best days, Joy? Okay, let's discuss yours. The whole room braced itself. Exactly when were they? He demanded. When you were bombing on stage performing stand-up comedy nobody found funny? Or perhaps now clinging to any available lifeline of relevance by dissing people who actually accomplish something? Joy's mouth fell open. She hadn't anticipated this, particularly not with laser accuracy. She had thought Ford would walk away, or perhaps remain quiet. She hadn't anticipated him standing firm and firing back. How dare you? She spat, her tone wavering. That familiar husk of assurance blunted. You know nothing about me, my career, my life. Ford didn't flinch. I know enough, he replied calmly. He towered over the panel like a judge, not angry, but irrevocably finished with playing nice. I know you created your career on the back of ripping down other people. I know you sit behind this podium like it's a shield, like it authorizes you to say anything mean that pops into your head. And I know deeply you're not happy, Joy, because happy people don't spend their days trying to shrink others down. The other hosts seemed shocked, leaning back in their chairs, not sure if they should step in or simply prepare for impact. Whoopi attempted to break the tension with a joke, the way that she always did, but the words didn't make it out. Ford and Joy turned to her in perfect harmony, eyes keen, and she backed off hastily. Try to psychoanalyze me? Joy's voice quivered now. It was difficult to determine whether it was rage or something else insidiously encroaching. You have no idea who I am. You conceited, she spluttered, searching for words. Has been, she eventually hurled, like a curse. Ford laughed, actually, but there was nothing warm about it, no charm. Joy, he delivered dryly, I earned more money last year than you'll ever earn in a lifetime. There was a sudden hush in the room. My movies are still on the screen, all over the world, today, while you sit there recycling Hollywood gossip just to pass the time through the vacant hours of busy housewives. If I'm a has-been, he leaned forward by a fraction, just enough for the gravity of the moment to settle. Then what does that make you? His silence was merciless. A never was. The studio audience gasped, strong and audible. It was the type of moment that pulled the air out of the room, and no one, not Joy, not the panel, not even the producers, had a clue where this conversation was headed next. Several people in the front row had their hands over their mouths. This wasn't just an uncomfortable exchange anymore. This was a full-on clash, raw, brutal, and playing out live in front of millions. You could feel the tension pressing in from all sides. Joy's face was turning a deeper shade of red by the second. She glared at Ford, her voice sharp and biting. Money is all you care about, isn't it? She snapped. You think just because you caught a few breaks and had a couple of big parts, you're some sort of wow? Ford's voice finally broke, and when it did, the studio winced. Luck? He repeated, his voice as keen as a razor. Lady, I spent years working construction, taking bit parts in garbage movies, getting rejected at every turn. I earned every role I've ever had through hard work, patience, and persistence. He took a breath, chest heaving slightly, before continuing. You want to talk about luck? Let's talk about the kind of luck it takes to land a job on national television without any qualifications, except being cruel enough to insult people on air. Inside the control room, producers were panicking, gesturing wildly, mouthing "go to commercial" over and over. But Joy didn't look at them. She was too committed now. She had set the fire and was watching it burn. At least I don't phone it in, she snarled. At least I do actually show up and try to say something that means something. I'm not cashing a check and mumbling through the same old tired routine. Ford stepped forward, just one step, but it changed the whole vibe of the room. He wasn't threatening, just angry, actual, burning with the flame of a man who'd had enough. You want to discuss phoning it in? He demanded, his tone crisp but contained. Take a look around, Joy. Take a look at this set. Take a look at this show. This pathetic little hour where you sit around dissecting other people's lives because you're too scared to discuss your own. You could have heard a pin drop. This is what you call trying, he continued, waving towards the panel. This is what you find interesting. This right here. This is the biggest waste of airtime on television. And you're the reason why. Joy rose up suddenly. No more sitting behind a desk. No more acting as if everything were okay. She stood toe-to-toe with Ford now. Two celebrities trapped in a moment that was more gunfight than it was TV feature. Her tone was low. Anger. Get out, she said just above a whisper. Get out of my studio, now. We don't need your attitude, your insults, or your has-been movie star ego. Ford laughed, but there was no humor in it. This isn't your studio, Joy, he said, moving closer still. This is a rented soundstage where they make your little gossip hour. You don't own anything around here, except perhaps that chair you've been sitting in for all these years. He glared at her, eyes fixed. And let's be realistic, even that hasn't added much. You've never helped society, Ford said, his voice calm but cutting. All you've ever done is make people feel worse about themselves. The camera crew knew they were capturing something that would be talked about for years. This wasn't just a celebrity interview gone off the rails. This was two public figures completely unraveling, tearing into each other live on national TV, and the world was watching in stunned silence. Joy leaned forward once more, her tone stinging and piercing. You know what your problem is, Harrison, she said scornfully. You just can't handle that someone finally dared to tell you the truth. Your career? It's average. You're not some kind of hero like the ones you portray in films. You're just another older actor who can't bear the fact that nobody cares anymore. Those final words, nobody cares anymore, struck with impact. For an instant, Ford did not move. His face turned white. The hit was real. You could see it in his eyes. Joy had struck something raw, something that actually hurt. But that hurt did not linger. It turned, shifted, into something colder, deeper, a calm, intense anger that swept through the whole studio like a storm cloud. Silence fell over the room so total, you could hear people catch their breath. And then, at last, Ford spoke. His voice wasn't boisterous. Actually, it was virtually a whisper, but each word held a half-century of experience and every scrap of dignity he had accumulated in Hollywood. You want to know what nobody cares about anymore, Joy? He asked. Nobody cares about bitter, talentless individuals who make their living by destroying other people. Nobody cares about comedians who are over the hill, who never had anything to say except for cruelty. And nobody, nobody gives a damn what you think of my career or anyone else's. Joy began to interrupt, mouth opening quickly, but Ford held up his hand. Just one serene movement. And for the first time in the entire interview, Joy did stop talking. Ford breathed and went on, the voice now firm, cutting, and growing in authority. You asked me when I last pushed myself as an actor. Ask me this. When did you last challenge yourself to be a good human being? There was a pause in the studio. Nobody dared to move. When did you last use this show to build someone rather than to tear them down? When did you ever gaze into the mirror and wonder if you were improving the world or simply adding to the mess it's already in? The other hosts? Frozen in shock, speechless, entirely at a loss for what to do next. The moment had passed so far beyond anything the show's team or hosts had ever seen that they were no longer even sure how to respond. The cameras continued to roll, though. Everyone in the control room knew they were recording something that would be replayed and analyzed for years. Joy's hands shook. Whether it was rage or something else, no one knew. "Ah, sanctimonious hypocrite," she spat, her voice trembling. "Think you're better than everyone, don't you? Just because you've appeared in a couple of films, now you're some sort of moral arbiter." Ford blinked, indeed taken aback by that one. "Moral arbiter?" he echoed, his eyebrows shooting up. "Bliss, I've never asserted to be that. I'm just an actor doing my job and trying to treat people with basic respect along the way." He paused, adding softly, "But maybe that's too much to expect in your world." Joy wasn't relaxing. "Respect has to be earned," she snapped, almost shouting now. "And you haven't earned anything, except a reputation for being difficult and demanding on every set you've ever worked on." Ford laughed, but this time it was lighter. There was a small warmth to it, as if he had just thought of something humorous. "Difficult and demanding," he repeated. "You know what, Joy? You're absolutely right." He moved forward, calm but firm. "I am difficult when directors want me to sleepwalk through a performance. I am demanding when producers try to cut corners that will destroy the final product. Because I care about what I do. Because I respect the audience enough to give them my best every single time." Next, for the first time throughout the interview, Ford shifted his position to directly stare into the camera. His eyes were piercing, intense, and immensely sincere. "And I'm obstinate when people like you attempt to dismantle what others spent their entire lives constructing. So yes, I'm being obstinate now, and I'll continue being obstreperous until you can learn to exhibit some elementary human decency." Joy was angry now. She trembled with rage from head to toe. "Human decency? You're going to teach me about human decency?" She pointed a finger at him. "You just spent 10 minutes disparaging me and my profession on national television." "I was reacting to your provocations, Joy," Ford said steadily. "That's different. You started this mess by trying to humiliate me for no reason but your own entertainment. Everything I've said, it's just me defending myself from your cruelty." He took a step closer to the panel, voice lowering again into that whisper that somehow hit harder than any yell. "But here's what really bothers me about people like you." The room went completely still again. "You use the guise of having tough questions or honest criticism, but that's not what this is. This is you attempting to hurt somebody because it makes you feel strong. This is you using your platform to bring people down because you believe it makes for interesting television." He paused, his words heavy as stones. "And the worst part? You most likely don't even know how broken that leaves you. You must be hurting inside to get a sense of joy out of hurting people and making them feel tiny." Ford's voice was calm, near silent, but the sentences came like a hammer blow. Joy's face faltered for the first time. For just a moment, her face collapsed. It was like Ford's words had hit some raw place deep inside her, a place she usually kept hidden, but it snapped back just as fast, and she swung back around. "How dare you psychoanalyze me," she spit. "You pompous buffoon. You have no idea about my life, what I've gone through, or why I do what I do." She was fuming now. "You think you can come in here and judge me from one conversation?" Ford blinked in astonishment. "One conversation?" he said. "Joy, this isn't just one conversation." He waved his hand in a soft but insistent gesture. "This is who you are. This is what you do. Every single day on this show, you attack people, you jeer at them, you probe their bad points just to see them shatter. And when someone does stand up to you, you turn it like you're the victim." Backstage, pandemonium had erupted. Producers debated what to do: cut to advertisement, end the segment, call security. But none of them could move. All were immobile, witnessing the moment happen in slow motion like a car crash. Ford caught his breath, composing himself. "You want to know what I think?" His tone escalated with each sentence, obviously ending in his last message. "I think you're bitter. I think you're jealous of everyone who's gone out and built something meaningful, while you've spent years in that chair, complaining, tearing people down, and adding nothing good to the world." Joy was shaking now, fists clenched at her sides. "Jealous?" she spat. "Jealous of what? Your failing career? Your endless string of box office flops? Your desperate attempt to stay relevant in a world that's already moved on?" Ford didn't flinch. "No," he said calmly. "You're jealous because when people hear my name, they remember tales that made them happy, thrilled, amazed. When people hear your name, what do they remember? What have you contributed to the world other than suffering, cruelty?" The words hit like a knockout punch. Joy opened her mouth, then shut it. Nothing escaped. For the first time throughout the segment, she had nothing to say. Ford gave a small nod, like her silence had said everything he needed to hear. You know, he said softly, I came here to talk about a film I'm proud of. A movie that might give people a couple hours of escape, maybe even a little magic. He glanced around the studio, his expression one of sadness, not anger now. But you take that magic and crush it up. You reduce things to small and stupid and worthless. Why? For ratings? For attention? For the sick pleasure of making someone squirm? Joy finally spoke, but only in a whisper. You can't speak to me like that. You can't come on my show and assault me like that. Ford's voice rose one last time, not in rage, but with intent. Your show, and he repeated, this is not a show, Joy. This is a public execution masquerading as entertainment. He moved away, gesturing towards the set. This is you and your panel, judging anyone unfortunate enough to be dragged through those doors. But I refuse to sit here and have you execute me for ratings. Not today. He began walking to the edge of the stage, but then stopped, turned around for one final word. You likely think you won today, that this showdown will earn you eyeballs and attention. But all you've truly done is reveal the world what you actually are. And let me tell you, it's not pretty. Joy leaped to her feet, finger extended at him, her voice breaking. Don't you even turn your back on me. Don't you walk away from me when I'm speaking. Ford halted in his stride, but he didn't turn back. I'm not leaving you, Joy, he told her softly. I'm leaving this poisonous crap that you made. I'm leaving the kind of television that makes the world a lesser place, Ford declared, one step closer to the door. And I'm leaving individuals who find cruelty entertaining. His words lingered in the air like smoke from an inferno. Joy was far from finished. You think you're so much better than us, she yelled after him. You think you're above this show, above me, above everybody. Her voice broke with anger. Well, let me tell you something, Mr. Big Shot movie star. We don't need you. We never needed you. Ford finally turned around, and when he spoke again, his voice wasn't angry anymore. It was soft, almost sad. You're right, Joy, he said. You don't need me. He set his jaw, staring straight at her, but not with anger, just with a profound human sort of disappointment. But perhaps, maybe, just possibly, you need to take a hard, long look at what you've become and consider if this is really the person you wish to be. He shook his head softly. Because if it is, I pity you. I do. And with that, Harrison Ford headed off the set of The View, leaving a shocked studio audience, a line of shell-shocked co-hosts, and one of the most memorable moments ever to air on daytime TV. The cameras continued rolling. Joy was alone, still gesturing at the vacant spot where Ford had stood only seconds before. Her reaction was stuck somewhere between anger and humiliation. The other host, shaken, ultimately attempted to restore order to the situation. But it was too late. The damage was accomplished, and everybody watching, on their couches, in the control room, and in the studio, knew they'd just seen something historic, something raw, real, and impossible to ignore. So, what did you think of this on-air explosion between Harrison Ford and Joy Behar? Have you ever witnessed anything like that on live daytime TV? Leave your thoughts in the comments, and if you like raw, intense celebrity news that shows you what actually goes down when the cameras stop rolling, hit subscribe now, because this is the kind of behind-the-scenes hype that not many are willing to share, but you'll always get it here.